7 лет назад в Париже начался педагогический эксперимент, получивший название «Школа 42». Все эти годы в школе с большим успехом учат программированию людей самого разного возраста, самых разных профессий, часто не имеющих никакого технического образования. В школе 42 нет преподавателей, нет лекций, нет семинаров. Зато в ней создана образовательная среда и атмосфера учебы как онлайновая, так и офлайновая, которые, как показали прошедшие 7 лет, позволяют достигать впечатляющих результатов. Школа 42 давно вышла за границы Франции, она пришла и в Россию. У нас ее называют «Школа 21». Давайте послушаем рассказы тех, кто руководит проектом и глобально, и локально у нас в стране.
My name is Olivier, and I'm going to present to you 42. 42 is an information technology school, and is located in Paris, in France. And 42 is a school that is well known in higher education for a very specific and special pedagogical model. And here's the story of 42. It has been created in 2013, 7 years ago, but actually it's a pedagogical history that lasts for almost 25 years. 25 years ago, in a very classic engineer school in France, we had a special demand from a company. And this company was asking, hey, I would like to have a team to create a specific piece of software I need. And the pedagogical team said to this company, well, maybe we have a problem here because what you are asking is actually not part of the curriculum. So you won't have very good results, obviously. Some students were part of the team, but after 3 months, we did realize that, well, the students were completely successful regarding this project. That's how we started to think that, well, learning by doing could be an interesting way to learn for our students. And we started slowly to increase hands-on and practical approach and projects inside the curriculum. Well, we also had a lot of different experiments as well along these 25 years, including the fact at some point that, well, maybe transmitting knowledge is not relevant anymore. Indeed, now all the information is available online. And why should we have someone in a lecture room who is transmitting this knowledge when all the students can directly have access to it? So we made a few experiments, and then we did realize that, well, having some students learning without teacher was something that was completely doable inside our higher education school. 7 years ago, this pedagogical history met someone called Xavier Niel. Xavier Niel is a French telecom tycoon. He is owner of one of the 4 telecom companies here in France. And he did realize a few things as a tech entrepreneur. You probably know that in France we are considered as the 7th world economy. And it is mainly the result of a well-negotiated industrial revolution 150 years ago. But unfortunately, in France, we are not so good about e-economy. And Xavier Niel was facing this huge problem of lacking of ICT professionals. And it's not the only one, it's not only France, it's all over Europe that we are missing and lacking a lot of ICT professionals. So the European Commission, after several studies, did realize that we indeed had almost 1 million ICT professionals that were lacking all over Europe only. And Xavier Niel, as a tech entrepreneur, was also facing exactly the same problem. He was also facing another issue. He did realize that, well, public education was not able to fill this gap of ICT professionals. He was also able to realize that, well, in companies, we usually need collaborations, and collaboration is still called cheating in classic academia and classic education. And also the fact that all the education system was not fulfilling all the expectation of the different companies and from the labor market. From his point of view, the big problem was, well, education was still connected to the previous industrial revolution. And on the other side, all the companies are expecting people who are deeply connected to the new e-economy. That's why Xavier Niel decided to build and to create 42 7 years ago. He also did realize something that was interesting. You probably all know this famous e-company like Uber, Airbnb, like also Facebook, Twitter. All these companies have been built on this new way of doing ICT, of doing information technology. Well, before that, in a company, well, ICT was just an automation process of an already existing chain of value. But now ICT has a very more strategic role. ICT can create new way of making money inside your own company. What's happening regarding education? Well, education is evolving a little bit. We do have MOOCs that for the last decade comes and with not so good results. And during this MOOCs, well, maybe we are just facing only automation of education, and we need to have this switch and this new strategic approach with ICT into education. So all in all, Xavier Niel decided to create 42. Here you've got a nice picture of what we call a cluster. This place is in Paris. It's one of the 3 floors. In Paris we have almost 1,000 computers, and it's a place where our students are learning and are progressing inside our curriculum. Right before explaining how students are working, how our pedagogical model actually works, we had 2 very interesting points that we choose from the very beginning. At first, there is no degree requirement. Anyone can apply. Anyone above 18 years old in France can apply to 42. What is interesting here is that knowing the fact that some people who did drop out of public education could have this ICT talent that we are looking for, well, we decide to not rely on other degree. Also, we did know that because of the PISA report from the OECD, we did know that there is a strong connection between access to higher education and being part of poor suburbs. So we also wanted to try to attract people with this ICT talent, but regardless the school background and regardless this social background. That's why we choose to have a curriculum that is completely free for our students. To detect this ICT talent, we do have a strong selection process. Anyone can apply online. Anyone can start doing the online test. We have 2 small games that will reveal if you have the good state of mind to start coding, but it's open to everyone. Everyone who never coded before can definitely start this selection process. Then we have the second part of the selection process. It's a deep immersion. It's called piscine. It's a French word for swimming pool. And during this 4 weeks long on campus, the applicants will need to taste if they do like coding, because they will discover coding there. And they will need to taste if they do like the peer learning pedagogical model, because it's something that is very, very different from what they used to, from what they had back into high school or other different kinds of curriculum. Today, in Paris, 42, it's more than 4,000 students. Our campus is open 24/7. And here is what we call the peer learning pedagogical model. The peer learning pedagogical model is something that is very far from classic academia. First of all, we have no teacher, we have no lecture, we have no MOOC at all. Our students do not have any ideas on how to solve all the different projects, because all the curriculum is created with some of all different projects. These are software development challenges, and the students are spending all the time on a 1% hands-on and practice curriculum. To solve this project, our students will need to search for information online. They will need to learn how to filter this information and to verify if any information is true, false, obsolete, irrelevant, or something useful to solve the project. They need to do some tests, they will do some trial and error approach, but usually they can't do this alone. That's why our pedagogical model is called peer learning. It's because it's a 100% collaboration. We need our students to debate, to talk to each other, and to exchange ideas. The point here is that students will explain how they understand the subject and the project. They will try to explain how they think they can solve the project. And of course, they will have a debate with other students that may have different point of views. What we want here is to create collective intelligence. So at the end of the discussion, at the end of the debate, all students will get back on their own test with new hypotheses that no one brought in the very first time. When a project is over, what is happening? Students will have the peer evaluation system. Every student will get a different mark from usually 5 other students inside the community. And during this peer evaluation, it will be very interesting for the students to have all the feedback from other students about their own work. The students will also have a strongly gamified curriculum. Our curriculum just acts like a giant video game, and it also allows every student to progress on its own path at its own pace. Here is a small sneak peek about the gamification system. What you can see right now is a very nice picture of what we call our holy graph. It represents the entire curriculum. Every small circle is actually a project inside the curriculum. When it's green, it means that the students already completed this project. When it's white, it means that it's an available project. If it's red, well, maybe it's a project that the students need to try again because you already tried a first time but failed. And then you have all the gray projects, the gray dot on this graph, that are projects that are still unlocked. You need to progress into the different projects, and when a project is a success, it will unlock one or multiple other projects inside the curriculum. Of course, all this curriculum is just like a giant stairway, meaning the next project is a little bit more difficult than the previous one. This is exactly like in a video game. What did we add also? We had experience points, like in video games. Every successful project will give you some experience points and make you progress through different levels. You will have also some quests, some badges, achievements. We have, of course, a lot of projects in teams. We have what we call rush. In a very short amount of time, students need to do a very simple project in random teams, for example. What's interesting here is that all this gamification is a motivation lever for our students, because some of our students, well, are gamers, and they do like this way of progression inside the curriculum. What we also want here is to show that students can try and fail. It's completely natural to fail and try again and to develop some strategies to solve each level. That's exactly what we want inside the curriculum. We want to legitimate this try and fail and experimental approach inside the curriculum. All this pedagogical model 25 years ago was from a question and a demand from a company. Well, we think that it's still 100% suitable for what is happening in the company. In the company, well, usually you don't have a teacher to tell you, okay, now you need to learn this. In a company, you will also have a lot of collaboration. Today, to have a successful product on the market, you can just have everything that fits into one unique brain. You need, from the beginning, to have very smart brain from the marketing team, from the sales team, from the law team, from the R&D team, and so on. So our pedagogical model definitely fits the expectation and the way companies are working nowadays. On a more ideologic point of view, well, our pedagogical model definitely connects with a very famous pedagogical experiment from the past century. I'm thinking here about Sugata Mitra, with his experience, The Hole in the Wall, here in New Delhi, back 20 years ago. I'm also thinking about Montessori, and who did choose to have a learning approach that allow every student or every learner or every child to learn what he wants to learn when he wants to learn, thinking that nobody is ready to learn the same thing at exactly the same time. We'd also definitely have some connection with Célestin Freinet or the social constructivism model from Jean Piaget. From conference to conference, I've heard that such kind of remark, hey guys, what you are doing, it looks like that, I call that natural learning, because you are recreating exactly the same pedagogical context and learning context of a baby that is learning how to talk and how to walk. And yes, maybe at some point, it's indeed a possibility. A baby who starts to walk, well, he does not start with a lecture about gravity, about forces on his own legs, and he will just try and fail and try again, and it will get a lot of support from his parents instead of having a bad mark. It's the first time it's tried to stand up and fail. So what are the results today regarding 42? Well, we do have a lot of job and internships offers. Twice our number of students for Paris, for example. We do have a lot of feedbacks from companies because it's something that is definitely very interesting for us, because it's something that will help to define the quality of our output, of our outcomes at the end of the curriculum. We also have some very interesting success stories. For example, 3 years ago, a group of 42 students in Paris created an artificial intelligence-oriented startup. And last year, they have been bought by SAP, the famous German industry. So this is definitely one of the examples of many success stories that we are facing in 42. Also, we do have a lot of students that are starting their career before reaching the end of the curriculum, because there is a lot of demand on the labor market, and our students do have definitely very good job opportunities in France or in other foreign countries as well. And finally, we are also asking if our students do have the expected skills, and the company are confirming that the output and the outcomes of the curriculum is definitely what the company are expecting. And if we are talking a little bit about skills, well, of course, what would come immediately to our minds is that we are developing ICT technical skills to our students, like object-oriented programming, like database, like security, artificial intelligence, and many of them. But, well, I would say it's actually kind of a lie, because that's not our main goal here. Why that? Because all these technical skills will be completely obsolete in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So what will happen to our students? If we want them to have a sustainable career, if we want them to be able to change path, to change career, to adapt to new technology, well, we need them to develop soft skills like adaptation skills, like collaboration, problem-solving skills, self-learning, even creativity. We think that is something that is very fundamental here, and all our pedagogical models have been designed to also, at every step, to also develop all these soft skills. What we want to reach here for our students is definitely an agile state of mind, so our students will be able to face an unknown future. We think it's definitely something that has the most value nowadays regarding our learning outcomes. 6 months ago, the entire world was hit by this huge pandemic. And a lot of questions did raise about education, how education can continue under lockdown. And of course, 42 had to face all this very strange and very new situation. What did happen for 42 and regarding his very special pedagogical model? Well, at first, it was a little bit easy because naturally, in 42, a student has an entire access on the internet to all he needs to complete and to progress into its own curriculum. So it was definitely easy to just allow some remote access for our students so they could work from home. All our infrastructure was already designed for our students to be completely autonomous. But we had actually a little problem here. All our pedagogical model is strongly based on collaboration. And collaboration is not something that usually, so far, our students learn in high school or in all the K-12 education. So we did have some students who were completely lost. Working from home and collaborating from home was something that was brand new, and they were not ready for that. They were not mature enough to be able to work from home. So it was difficult for some of our students. And we had collectively to help our students a little bit, which is some kind of unusual in our pedagogical model. But we needed to have a special temporary support for our students to try to shake them up, to try to connect them with all the community, to connect them back with all the community, because they were missing the discussion at the coffee machine on campus. They were missing to see faces of their friends, and they were missing this possibility in a huge open space computer rooms to just grab someone randomly to ask any question when you are in front of a problem. So we had to, all over the world, on all of our campuses, to bring all this support for our students. We also had some different experimentation. It was interesting to try to figure out how we could do some selection process, how we could attract new students during this pandemic, during this lockdown, how it was possible to change a little bit to make things happen. It was still a little bit difficult, and we had lower results. We still have a lot of ideas we would like to experiment since the end of the different and various lockdowns in many countries. This is what mainly happened in Paris after the lockdown. It was possible to have a reduced number of students in Paris on the campus, and so slowly everything started to get back to almost normal. We also had a lower number of students during all our admission process. This conference is held in Russia, and maybe it's time also to have some insights about our local campus. School 21 in Moscow and in Kazan also had to deal with this COVID situation, and also did take some action in order to allow the students' progression. So let me leave the stage to Svetlana, our head of our campus in Russia.
Салю, Оливье. Всем привет. Я Света Инфимовская из школы 21. Спасибо большое за подробный рассказ об истории школы 42, о том, как устроена наша методология, в чем есть особенности программы обучения. Пару слов про школу 21. Всего 2,5 года назад только возникла идея открытия школы у нас в России, а уже сегодня 2500 участников стали нашими студентами. Более 1000 мы принимаем каждый год в Москве, и 500 ребят присоединяются к нам в Казани. Треть наших участников учатся в университете и сочетают с учебой в школе 21. Треть сочетают с работой, а треть учатся только у нас. Буквально с самого начала мы вырвались в лидеры по числу девушек. В целом 25% — это достаточно высокий процент даже для IT-индустрии. Половина наших участников, как сказал Оливье, еще ни разу не программировали до этого, не имеют никакого опыта и закончили свой опыт с математикой в 9 классе. Более половины наших участников приехали из разных регионов, 76 регионов Российской Федерации и более 14 стран. Отдельно остановлюсь на возрастном критерии. Как только мы отобрали первую когорту, к нам обращались ребята старше верхней планки, которой было установлено 42, 30 лет. Мы попросили о возможности проведения эксперимента позвать ребят старше 50. Эксперимент прошел успешно, и в итоге во всей сети верхнюю планку отменили. Конечно, основной банч наших участников — это ребята от 17 до 27 лет, но тем не менее у нас есть самый опытный участник, которому 61 год. Соглашусь с Оливье, что, конечно, основной оценкой нашего продукта являются компании, где ребята проходят стажировку и куда они выходят на работу. Более 500 уже успешно устроились, и более 200 успешно завершили свою стажировку и получили предложение о работе. Отрадно, что как раз наш первый участник, которому 57 лет, достиг уровня стажировки и успешно вышел на нее. Сейчас прекрасно ее проходит, судя по средней оценке. Так выглядят наши кластеры, наша школа в обычное мирное время. У нас есть игровые, переговорки, у нас есть огромный атриум, где проходят мероприятия и хакатоны. И все, конечно, изменил этот год. Начался для нас он крайне позитивно. Мы открыли школу в Казани. Но буквально в марте нам пришлось остановить отборочные интенсивы и в Москве, и в Казани. Очень быстро подготовиться к переводу обучения в режим онлайн. Для того, чтобы ребята себя поспокойнее чувствовали, мы удвоили количество мероприятий, которые мы проводим для них, чтобы, наверное, чуть-чуть воссоздать ту самую ламповую атмосферу, которой им так не хватает, когда они сидят здесь. Мы предоставили технику из кластеров для ребят, у которых техники не было дома или она не тянула. Мы переоборудовали часть наших поверхностей под кластеры. Тот же атриум стал тем местом, где сейчас ребята могут проходить обучение офлайн. Летом, как только у нас появилась возможность вернуться в режим офлайн, мы провели 6 бассейнов, половину в Москве и половину в Казани. Также в этом году мы приступили к разработке своего собственного контента, поскольку по обратной связи от работодателей, где ребята проходят или проходили стажировку, мы выяснили, что необходимо усилить такие направления, как Java, Python, базы данных и Go. Буквально пару недель назад мы запустили новый поток участников. Более 1000 ребят присоединились к нам в качестве студентов в Москве и Казани. И что отрадно, мы смогли открыть кабинет робототехники и в Москве, и в Казани. Это была инициатива и от наших ребят, и мы сами планировали сделать это. То есть это не будет в формате некого кружка, а это будет такая же ветка обучения, как и все остальное. Наверное, нам очень сильно помогала в этом плане поддержка и чувство локтя от других кампусов, которые сейчас открыты в разных странах и на разных континентах. Наверное, чуть-чуть подробнее расскажет Оливье. Передаю тебе слово.
After this insight about what's happening in Russia, just to wrap things up, as you already understood, 42 is not just one campus in Paris. It's not just a campus in Paris and 2 campuses in Russia. It's actually today an entire network of more than 32 campuses all around the world. It's also an entire network of more than 10,000 students, and it's still increasing. Please don't look at the map. It's definitely not accurate anymore. It's evolving almost every day here. What we want to do across this network is to have a strong common skill set, a strong base of skills for all of our students across all the networks. And we also want our students to be able, at some point, to change from one campus to another and to have an international experience across all this network. We also, of course, want to promote the image of the 42 network all around the world in order to be a source of innovation in many countries. So this was my presentation about 42. If I want to conclude here, I would say that, well, 42 was designed, at least in France, but it's also the case in many countries, as a support for the growth of the e-economy. Many countries think that they are lacking some dynamic in their e-economy, and they see a lot of companies that would like to do their own digital transformation in many fields of the economy. And many countries are lacking a lot of ICT professionals to do that. So the design of all the 42 campuses is definitely to help this e-economic growth. But the state of mind of 42 is also we want to offer a different educational path for our students. Because not everyone fits into the academic model. Not everyone fits into the 42 model as well. But we think that diversity is something that is very important in the education field. And finally, well, education is also part of the society, and education also needs to have its own digital transformation. From my point of view, 42 is a possible example of what could be digital transformation into education. Thank you very much for your attention.